Hey y'all, I hope you're well. Welcome to another episode of Healthcare Boulevard. This is a podcast where we shine more light on healthcare, and our goal here is to provide more options to people looking to choose healthcare as a career path, regardless of their background. My name is Sena Kakpomo, and I am your host and creator here. I thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support. Remember, you can tune in wherever you get your podcast. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Hello, Vardians. How y'all doing? Let me set the stage for you. How about that? Let's set the stage. I'm actually recording this from Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, which is my home-in-law, aka where my dear husband is from. So we came down here for Thanksgiving, and so I don't know what it is, but I just have not. My sleeping schedule has been like all over the place since 2 weeks ago. Well, I think partly because time difference and all of that. But that is not why I'm here today. Welcome back to another episode. I actually had planned on sharing another episode with you, which will have been an interview episode with an ATC. If you follow me on IG, you saw that I did a behind the scene when I was getting ready to record that episode. But that didn't happen because I recorded that episode on Wednesday, day before Thanksgiving, and Thursday we got on the plane to come to Detroit. I was so sure I packed everything, but on the last minute I decided not to pack our tablet. So I recorded our interview on the tablet, and I was gonna bring both our tablet and our computer. But on the last minute we decided, we probably don't need both technologies. Let's just bring the biggest one. And so I didn't transfer it from the tablet to the computer beforehand, and thus I could now edit it and share it until I go back. And I go back on Wednesday, technically tomorrow, because it's let me see, what time is it right now? It's 2:19 right now in Detroit. So it's already Tuesday, and we leave on Wednesday. But yeah, since I haven't slept yet, for me it's still Monday. How about that? So happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays. If you celebrate any of the many holidays that are coming up that have already happened, I hope you had a good one. Hopefully your loved one are well. Now let's get into the business of the day. I wanted to just give you a bit of a background, something that I not necessarily haven't shied away from, but haven't really touched on, and give you an update on, because it has been very tough on my end, and that is my progress, as you know, because last you heard from me, it's specifically about my professional journey. You heard that I had graduated a PA school. So I graduated PA school and promptly thereafter started this podcast. And so you heard about me graduating from PA school and getting married. But it's if you have listened to the episode, especially the one-on-ones ones, you may have noticed that I really haven't necessarily mentioned much about my work as I would have necessarily if I was working in a clinical setting as a PA. And the reason is because I have not been working as a PA. And let's get into why that is, right? And there's I wanted to share this with you all just to sort of give you an example of some of the hardships and unexpected things that could happen on your journey to becoming whatever healthcare professional you choose to become. So my journey to up to here, where went to PA school, graduated December 2020, aka essentially a year ago. And so the question, so I graduated, and as most folks who graduate, you take your board in about 1 to 3 months after graduation, and you pass it, you look for positions and you work. Some even have offers before they even sit for the board, because they have preceptors who say, oh, when essentially give them an offer contingent on them passing their board. As because of COVID and some things were not traditional about some of our clinicals, or perhaps half of our clinicals, a lot of my cohort really didn't get that offer or those chances. But nonetheless, we all landed on our feet for the most part. So I took my board the first time in February. So this is a story of how I finally passed my board. And I just couldn't touch this subject on here before really knowing how the story ended, or at least how this chapter of it ended. My professional story really won't end until maybe I retire, or maybe die. That's to that on the dock end there. But let me go back to that. So the short version, very short version of it is that I didn't pass my board on the first time. I did not pass it the second time or the third time. I was getting ready to not take it at all this year and take it next year, and and a couple things led to me just deciding to take it one more time this year, and that is when I finally passed it. I was really going into it. Let me just do another review, change one or two things. I changed exactly two things about the test day and what led to my test, and I'll get into that detail. And I just really wanted to change some things and see what really was the cause of me not passing the test. And so let's get into that. So I took my test in February, just a few days before I actually got married. And, I was all happy. I was excited to my plan was take the test, get married. Once at some point after my wedding, I was going to find out that I passed, and then, look for jobs. That was in February, and essentially start working. I told myself latest by like June, latest, I would land myself somewhere. So, I found out actually on the day of my wedding that I did not pass my test. I had a feeling because two of the folks I studied who were in my close knit in my cohort who has taken the test before me didn't pass. And so in my head I was like, okay, these are two very smart people, and I'm not saying I'm not smart either. I can hold my way in the room. But the thing is, I know my test abilities are not the strongest, right? So when I heard that those two folks didn't pass, I essentially knew what was happening, right? I essentially knew I was going to get a failing report from my test. And so that's what happened. I literally found out on the morning of my test. So that was, I didn't let that rattle me. I think because I sort of saw it coming, that didn't got to me so much. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to enjoy the day. It's my wedding day. And I did. So I had a great time on my wedding day. We had such a fun time. And my husband, being as great as he is, he was very supportive and all that good stuff. So, of course, I went back to the books and studied again. Took it in April, right before my sister's wedding, which was May 1st. Found out shortly before her wedding that I didn't pass either. And that one took a toll because I really felt like I did everything I could. Then I came back from her wedding, which was in Maryland, because my family lived in Maryland, and started working. Now, in February, while I was studying the first time before I even took it, like 2 weeks before I took the test, I graduated in December. I graduated in December. From graduation until my test, essentially, I was at home studying 8 hours a day, essentially, because my husband was working, and literally I was following his work schedule in that, okay, whenever he leaves, he get to work at 8. So whenever he leaves, I, get myself up, maybe get some tea or whatever, and get to work studying. And then I take some breaks here and there, but I essentially will study from when he leaves for work until he comes back. So I had to me anyway, I had the perfect plan, study while my husband is out and have a good time and have a decently balanced life, so I can hang out with him and do social stuff when he is back. So as I did that, again from like December until mid-February. And so by like early February, I was really sick and tired of like studying, sick and tired of doing this, like just sick and tired of the material, you know what I mean? And so I really wanted to just see what's out there, get out of the house a little bit. I found this position that, remember pandemic, right? So this was one of the positions for COVID testing, and they were looking for CNAs, MAs, EMT, and so forth. And so I was like, well, I don't hold any of those certifications, but I am a master's level graduate. I'm a physician assistant. I don't have the C yet, but I am a physician assistant. And so I took my luck and I applied with them, and they got back with me, and Zoom interview and all of that. So I started working with them just 3 days a week, and this was like a week or 2 weeks before my test. And essentially this is important because this position is essentially what I've been working this whole time up until September. So once I didn't pass my test, of course I couldn't just sit at home and study all day. I really felt I needed to make something, financially speaking. Luckily, and I hate to say the words COVID was a blessing, but in a way it was, because as you know, if you're a student or not even a student, you've heard that the student loans have been put on hold for repayment, which is amazing, because otherwise I would have had to start paying my student loan back by June. Yeah, June, because they give you that 6-month grace period, which again, as you essentially know the end of the story, which is that I didn't pass my test until November, right? Yeah, was that? Yeah, no, we are in November now, though. November 17, I believe, is when I found out. Yeah, I took it on the 15th, and it was the fastest of all the tests I've taken. I've taken it 4 times, as you know. All of the 3 times prior to the 4th, they got back to me a week to 2 weeks. That's when I found out about the result. But this time, I really was getting ready. And I know I'm going back, and just mumbling the whole thing up. But I really was. So after I took my test this time, I was like, I gotta do it differently, because every time I find out the fail thing, it really takes a toll on me emotionally. And this time I went in, I was like, well, this is just a review. I just want to really get a better idea of where I'm at, and I want to change a couple things instead of just doing the same thing over again. Because I got the sense, and everybody else that I talked to, whether they were people who are tutors or like test helpers or not co-workers, but like classmates who are not working, or friends or whatever, they're like, the material from what you're saying. My practice test scores were high, all that stuff, right? But I still wasn't passing. And so, and I knew I had test anxiety. And if you have test anxiety, I am sure you're like, Jesus, I get you. I know what you mean. But I didn't know how bad it was, right? And here's an example. Even SAT, taking it back to high school, SAT was like, no, oh my God, I still remember the trauma from that. And it's weird because I didn't even end up using my SAT. I went to community college, for which I didn't need an SAT. But when I took the SAT, I was, just taking it to increase my chances of where I go, just open up my options out there. And for in-class tests, like tests that we just taking for anatomy and physiology, or general med, or all those things, I always get nervous before the test and during and things like that, but I always, I make it through. Not always pass it, but I pass all my classes clearly. I finish school. And so it was so frustrating. Oh my Jesus. It was extremely frustrating to know that I have put in all this work, all these years, all this sleepless night, all of this money, all to get here, and it's just one thing that stands in my way of putting that white coat on proudly and doing what I've been wanting and imagining and envisioning and dreaming of doing for quite some time. I'm gonna be real with you. I was depressed. It drove me into depression. I remember after the third time I found out that I fell. I don't know what to do. Like, I was in such a rut, like such a black hole. I really didn't know what to do. And my husband was like, listen, nobody else, you're not talking to anybody else about what's happening, right? Because after the second time, I'm just like, I'm not telling that. I was barely talking to anyone in my social life. People will call me sometimes and I'm just like, maybe text them back quickly or something, or like call them back just to check on them, but like make sure I avoid whatever my side, because I really didn't want to talk about me or talk to people in general. And before this year, I was and still am like a very social person. 9 times out of 10 people know I'm in the room when I'm in the room. Not necessarily because I'm like, exceptional or anything, but just because of my voice. And also I like to hang out with people. I like talking to people. I like socializing. And so that I couldn't do that. I really couldn't. I couldn't maintain my existing social life, and I couldn't, even just virtually, and I couldn't build new social bridges, like in situations where I would normally jump to the occasion to connect with somebody and find out about them and make connections and talk, I would just be like, oh, okay, that's nice, well, nice to meet you, and I'll walk out. Like I say, I was so in fear of somebody hearing that I hadn't passed my certification exam. It was this glooming cloud. Oh my goodness. Just talking about it. It was a dark cloud. It was a dark cloud. Especially after the second time and the third time. and here's the thing, the whole time, well, not the whole time, but after the second time, and definitely after the third time, I was forced to start considering the possibility that I may not be able to pass this test, that I may not be able to work as a PAC. There were times where I considered not continuing this podcast because I just felt like I was, like a scam for sitting in front of a mic talking to you guys about trying to, create a space and this resource for future healthcare providers and those who pick healthcare as their career. And I felt like, even how can I do that when I couldn't complete being a healthcare provider? You know what I mean? Okay, so I did consider quitting the podcast a couple times, but honestly, keeping it going, even though I know there were times where I went like 2 weeks without uploading anything, or like all of that, just keeping something constant really helped me. And so I appreciate you guys who listen. I appreciate you all who have shared. I really do. You don't even understand. Okay. So yeah, that was a whole thing. So after my third time, I really had to think to myself. My husband suggested, he was like, listen, I know what you're going through. I know I cannot help you. I would love to, but I can't. I know you don't want to talk to me about it anymore, because I really didn't. I just felt like I had put him through enough just emotional roller coaster by me going through that emotional roller coaster. Because I know, like, when I'm not well, he's not, and it's just, I just know that it wasn't affecting him in a positive vibe. But me not talking about it and just sitting there and staring at the ceiling wasn't helping either. um. So, anyways, with his suggestion, I decided I really had to make a different step. And so the third time, one that helped me out, I had to call one of my, and I don't think I've ever really done this in my life, of which what I did was I really just texted one of my closest friends, because again, most of my close friends are in Maryland. I texted her. I was like, "Girl, I need to talk to you. Let me know when I can talk to you." And like a few hours later, she was probably at work. A few hours later, she's like, "Yeah, call me back. Just call me." And so I literally just took a walk around the block. I was on the phone with her. I called her, and I was just in tears, bust out with snobs and everything. Like, after like a few blocks, I was just sitting on somebody's lawn. I mean, yeah, somebody's grass, and just busted out in tears. And she was like, "What is wrong?" Anyways, she, at that moment, at that time in my life, she was something I don't think she will ever understand that I really needed that. Anyway, so that was the start of really getting me out of my dark cloud. Really just getting me back, you know. Excuse me. And it was. I think I was probably on the phone with her for like 2 hours, half of it just busting out crying. Um, and I think just hearing her again, somebody who's does not know she knows my medical path, but she's not on the medical field. Her path is different. But even just I can't even explain it. I just needed her at that moment. And she was there. And I couldn't say thank you enough. Um I couldn't. Anyways, oh, there's gonna have to do a lot of editing on this one. Oh my goodness, I didn't know this was gonna be this hard. Okay, so let's fast forward. After I talked to my friend, remember this whole time I've been working with the COVID testing and everything like that. Just bringing in some income and doing something outside of the house, and it's also something in healthcare, and that it was interesting. It was interesting because I was working with a lot of MAs and CNAs and respiratory people with different backgrounds, right? And some of them got to know me pretty well and got to know my story. Some of them to this day I'm still pretty close to, even though I don't work there anymore, because just even in the state that I was in, you meet one or two people that, and honestly, just one person I'm thinking of that really, I don't know, you just really connect with them, and you just feel like you can talk with them, that you can lay on their shoulder for just 5 seconds. And you also, sometimes it's even easier to talk to a stranger, at the time a stranger, about some of the deepest, I'm not gonna some of the deepest stuff. Sometimes it's easier to talk about it with a stranger than a close person, right? Anywho, so that happened. I kept working. I found out that I didn't pass the third time. I want to say July or August. I think it was either July or August. And so I really, between July and, excuse me, between July and, between July and end August or early September, I did my best to not think about the test. I did my best to not think about whether or not I'm going to take it again, whether or not I'm not going to take it again. I did my best. Honestly, what I did was I applied to a lot of non-clinical positions, some of which gave me some interviews, but then I was so discouraged because most of them were paying me like $18. I was like, bro. Excuse me. And I was like, and that didn't help because I was like, wow, it seems like if I don't pass this test, I can't do anything else. Because without going back to school, right? And at that point, and even today, I'm like, going back to school just really didn't seem like another option at this point, right? Because I'm like, I already have so many loans. I've been in school forever. I've done the work, Anywho, I did my best to not think about the test. That's the point of what I did essentially after this third one. So I didn't think about it. I was applying to as many non-clinical positions as I possibly can. And what happened was, I ended up leaving my work in end September. Essentially, I was forced out. The company was a little shitty, very shitty. But I saw certain things that didn't sit right with me, and so I decided to quit. So I quit the position in September, and my goal was, well, let me take all of October, November, December, and I wanted to take the PENS again in January. That's 4 months, so I figured, well, let me take this as slow as possible. Go through each module with fine tooth comb. You get the point. Go through each module with as much detail as possible. Study with the one with the least percentage in the test. So I actually studied with him. So while I was doing that, my sister was in town. My sister came in town to visit me. She's me and my husband in around the same time actually that I quit my job. So when she came here, I was actually out of a job at the time. I didn't tell her that because, again, I am very good at keeping things to myself that I feel are embarrassing. And also I didn't want to make, her visit here about me and my sad little life. And so, I had a good time. Well, my husband and I had a good time with her and her husband. And that was also her last trip before her baby comes. She's having a baby soon, which, it was exciting. That was my first time seeing her pregnant. So it was all exciting. And that was a great way to just enjoy life and have people around and live and laugh and all that good stuff. So once they left, while they were here, one thing that did come out, though I didn't mention that I was out of job, one thing that did come out is that I hadn't passed my test, right? Because, you can only hide so much from your family or friends. And so that came out, and I think when she went back, of course, she probably mentioned it to my brother. But anywho, my brother, my second older brother, who's an RN, he called me like maybe a week or so after my sister and her husband left. And he was like, oh, so what's happening? And I told him, I was like, listen, I'm just still trying to pass this thing. That's what it is. There's not much to it. And I don't know. And so he was like, well, walk me through what's happening today. And I was like, well, I take my tea, which I did. I take my tea, which I'll stay up. And then, I told him, of course, about, the jittering and the sweating, all the anxious stuff that's happening before and during the test. And so of course he suggested, and as I was planning on doing, not taking the tea or any caffeinated thing at all, even though I usually don't drink anything caffeinated often. Let's say that I don't drink caffeinated drinks often at all, not on a regular basis. So that was the plan. So I was like, okay, all right, I mean, at this point I'm ready to try anything. Ask me to ring a bell 9 times before I go to the test, and I will do it. Okay. So I was like, okay, I can do without the tea, but I was like, I guess it's better if I fall asleep than I'm jittery. Either way, I was gonna find out, because I was treating this time, the 4th time, as a test run. Let's see what happens if I don't take my tea. And another step I make that I've been resisting making is reaching out to my PCP and telling him about my anxiety problems that have worsened, and getting some medical help with that anxiety problem. And that I reached out to him. He suggested something that I have, and I tried that. That didn't work because it made me sleepy, and I was like, well, yeah, that's not gonna work, because number one, I'm already not taking caffeinated drink. I can't have a medication making me sleepy. And I don't want to go into pharmacology here. But of course, he suggested beta blocker after that. And I was like, yeah, that will work, because, it doesn't have any sleepy, drowsing side effect. So I tried that, and of course, I used the meds while I was taking my practice exams, just so I'm getting used to the med, and I don't want to take that as my, I don't want the test day to be the first time taking the med, right? So I did that. Essentially, that the plan went in action. That was early September, and I signed up for the test. I was not planning to sign up for the test again at all until, again, January or February. I was going to take like the longest time. And my brother convinced me in just taking it. He's like, at this point, you've taken it enough time. Like, it doesn't matter, like, how many times you take it at this point, because, yeah, you've already failed 3 times. It doesn't matter. Nobody's counting. It's not like every time you take it, because I was like, I don't want it to be the story that I take it 10 times before I pass. He's like, it doesn't matter. Like, at this point, it really doesn't matter. Anyways, so that was the plan. Take the med and say the calf. And that wasn't easy. That wasn't hard, because I wasn't, a daily caffeinated drinker anyway. So, anywho, essentially, let's paint the picture. At this point, in October, October, I was not working at all, staying at home, doing nothing else but studying and going to the gym. I spent that time, because I had to do something outside of the house, and that was perfect time, because back in August, my husband and I had renewed our gym membership to LA Fitness, and so and decided to get really serious about it and get our pre-COVID fitness level back, and perhaps even advance on that. So that was much helpful. I was going to the gym about 4 times a day. 4 times a week, right? Studying no more than 5 hours a day, and I really was not going through. By the time I spoke with with my brother, and decided on going on with his plan, which is just take it. That's what he said. He's like, just take it. What you had to lose? You already failed again. Like 3 times. Okay. All right. So that's one option. You could fail again. And I was like, great. Thanks. The one going total depressed and going in a emotional roller coaster every time I fell. But I saw his point. But anyhow, so I was studying. I was starting to study very slow, about a week or 2 before I changed the plan and decided to take it in November, sign up for it. And my plan then changed, because I started with hematology, because it's one of the ones with less percentage, the less weighted one modules. And so when the plan changed, I decided, well, I gotta start with something high and just really focus on that. I focused on my cardiology real hard. Like I was like, I will know this thing from the back of my hand, and not that I didn't before, but EKGs have always been one of my weaknesses, and that's hard because EKGs and cardiology are like a major part of the test if you know anything about the pens. Even if you don't, it is. So you can't get away with, you can't really pass the test without knowing, being very solid with your cardiology, especially arrhythmias and EKG and things like that. So I learned those things backward and forward. I was not reciting, but like talking it through with my husband, and like, let me tell you what I learned today. Just especially the cardio, I went hard on that. I did some poem, of course, some GI and some MSK, but I just really focused on those. I really just focused on those, and I did a lot of questions. And while I was doing the questions, one thing I did this time was like, okay, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna try to take my med before each question, so that I sort of stimulate what's really gonna happen on the test day. Another thing I did was I focused more on really catching what's being asked, and really, instead of trying to remember what I learned and answering the question based on my knowledge, really just catching what they're asking for, if that makes sense. Because test taking skills are totally different. It's an added skill that's needed on top of knowing the material. But anyways, that's what I did. And I went in there. I took it on Monday the 15th of November. Came back out really when I was planning on like doing a whole lot of things in that week, because I know the next week we were going out. We were flying out to come here where we are right now in Detroit for Thanksgiving. And so I was like, well, I had plans to like revamp our whole shed and like organize the living mother out of everything in our house, and I studied on that. So and then on Wednesday, I was just checking my emails as I usually do in the morning, just going through my many emails, and randomly I was like, wait, hold on, there's actually an email in my school my school email. I don't have an email. I checked and they're like, your results are ready, and I tell you, I was freaking out, and I went to that thing. I clicked on it. And they had me ask some questions. They had me answer some questions about my background, criminal background. I'm like, you already know this. I answered it, and the next thing I see is it's just a page with different information, and one of them was just in bold letters PAC, and I'm like, okay, they must know something I don't know. Like, listen, if you say it, I will not disagree with you. I will not argue with you. I will take that and run with it. But I was like, I had to be sure. I gave the computer to my husband. I was like, listen, you have to find the test score and you have to see the green, because I'm not messing around. I can't. There's no joking around. There's no maybe makes sense. No, I have to see it. And of course, I saw it and it said pass, and I was, Jesus, I don't think I've ever really cried tears of joy until that moment. I was in literal tears of joy and laughter all in one. It was a mess. But I'll end that there. I'll start ending it. But yeah, that's the story of what's been happening since my graduation, and how I got through it. I guess. How the story developed, right? I was extremely happy, called my mother and told her, because my mother is a very Christian woman, and she was been praying for me this whole time, and I was like, let me tell her so she can still keep praying, but about something else. But yeah, anyways, just let really just sharing the news with everyone, and Of course, started with my girl who was there for me then, and after my mom and all that stuff. But that's it. That's what's been happening. So to sum it all up without tears, is that since December that I finished my school, I haven't passed my test until 2 weeks ago. Right? I took it 4 times, and it's only after the fourth time that I passed. And I think really what was a major thing was the beta blockers, to be honest with you. And I hate to give so much credit to a pill. I really hate to. But I think of all the work I've done over the years, of all the knowledge in my head and all the lessons I've learned about test taking and everything, and all the anxiety I've built about surrounding this test and how it really just defines my future and define my life, and without it I just really didn't know what to do. I'm like, who am I? What am I supposed to do now? Who am I and what am I doing in this life without a PAC title? Like, it sounds pathetic and it sounds sad, but that really was the question I was asking myself. And I'm glad I didn't have to find out. And I thank you all for being not knowingly, just being there and listening and taking whatever you may take from this podcast. I really do appreciate your support and your share and whatever you get out of it. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you listening. I'm very thankful to all the support system I have, from my mother, the one and only, to my husband, to my sisters, my friends, and my classmates who have become friends over the years. And because at this point, most, if not all of them, have passed their tests, and as I will tell them what's happening, well, not tell them, but they know I haven't passed, because whenever we pass, it's just when you pass, you just tell your close classmates, because they get it. Like, they just get it. And so even though I wasn't talking to them much and anything, the few times we did talk, that they would just be like, listen, you can do this, we believe in you. So I appreciate them. I appreciate my husband for never giving up on me and never looking at me differently or treating me differently because I didn't fulfill what I had promised myself, which was to finish school and be a PAC. Because I didn't hold the title. I literally asked him the morning of our wedding when I found out I didn't pass. I was like, listen, I didn't pass my test. You still want to marry me? He looked at me like I was crazy. Of course he married me, because I'm calling him my husband now. But no, I'm not trying to end it there, but I think a lot of time we don't necessarily appreciate as much the roles of different people in our lives until their role becomes really critical, or they do something small that is so big in our life, right? Whether that's taking 15 minutes to ask you what's happening, or taking 2 hours on the phone with you and hearing you sobbing while you're sitting on somebody's lawn, or just telling you they believe in you and that you will be a great PA. They're small things, but they're big. They're amazingly big. And so now I am speaking to you guys as a PAC. Okay, I spent all of last week just be like, ooh, I'm a PAC. Like, I even add that to my IG, and my IG is not professional. I'm like, bro, I just had to but yeah, I'm just so happy I can say that I am a PAC, that I can finally complete that chapter. I can finally close the book on becoming a PA and open the book on being a PA. That's a summary of that. I'm very happy. The book on becoming a PA for me, becoming a healthcare professional for me, is closed. And I can start writing and scribbling down on the book of being the best PA I can be. And I really, truly, amazingly I appreciate you guys for being on this journey with me, for listening to me, and for sharing. Again, if there is anything I can help you with on your journey, let me know. That's what I'm here for. That's why I started this. And I didn't know the role it would play in my life down the line when I started it. But I'm glad I did. And I will continue to come to you. Even if I don't come every week, I will continue to come with you with as much information as I can to help you through your journey. Because we need each other. Thank you. And good night. Happy holidays, y'all. Alright, that's all I have for you today. Thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you. Please subscribe, follow, like, comment, and share. And stay blessed. Bye.